Voiceover off.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil kareem. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Wa rabbi zidni ilman wa anta khayrul fatihin. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-ilmu nafi'a ورزقا طيبا وأملا متقبلا اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والغنى والعفاف إنك أنت السميع الدعاء وبعد. After praising Allah, the Almighty, the Sublime, and sending salutations upon His blessed and noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we asking Allah to increase us in knowledge, asking Allah to give us knowledge that is beneficial, knowledge that is useful, knowledge that is comprehended, knowledge that we may apply a wholesome provision, and that which is actions that will be accepted by Him, the most important, the acceptance of deeds, and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance at all times. Piety, which means staying away from what's wrong and doing what's right. And afaf, being shy, being modest, as it relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being from amongst those who when they are just alone and it's no one but them and their Lord, then they are shy to disobey Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Those who are afaf, they don't want to offend the people. They don't want to ask the people that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He loves. Today is our 12th class in the famous book, Durus al-Muhimma li'ammat al-Ummah al-Imam al-Muhaddith Samahatu Sheikh al-Alama Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala. This is our class that we normally have about the Salat al-Fajr in the masjid here, but due to the weather, we are snowed in. Everything is closed. No one is advised to go out based upon the news and the governor of North Carolina. فنسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يسلمنا ويحافظ علينا يا الحافظ يا السلام. We ask Allah to protect us and to make us safe, as He is the one who gives total protection and total safety. Ameen. The Shaykh mentioned شروط الوضوء شروط الوضوء وهي 10. Shaykh said, Imam bin Baz, the conditions, the prerequisites of ablution, and they are 10. The first one the Shaykh mentioned, al-Islamu. Al-Islamu. So the first prerequisite before a person may have his ablution accepted is Islam. And we mentioned many times that this is the condition that comes before everything, whether it's salat, whether it's fasting, whether it's that which is giving charity, even making a journey to the sacred lands, Mecca and Al-Medina, to the house of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And we say it will not be accepted except by a person entering Islam. That's a person, if he doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then how can he do something solely to gain the reward from Allah in the first place? So the first condition the Shaykh mentioned, al-Islam. Al-Islam. And then the Shaykh mentioned secondly, al-Aql. Al-Aql. And al-Aql, we said, Diddu Majnoon. Diddu Majnoon. It is the opposite of someone not having his or her mind. And we mentioned before in the Sawm, just penetrating and taking a glance of fasting from the treatise of Imam Al-Allama Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, that this is one of the things that will have a person off the hook. He will not be questioned about fasting if he is temporarily or permanently without his intellect, meaning the ability to know what's going on and to execute that thing, as we say, insanity, temporary insanity or permanent insanity. And they also mention the one who he has dementia or Alzheimer's, these type of sicknesses are in that category we mentioned before of aql. And it doesn't mean that the person doesn't have any ability to know what's happening, but they don't have the capacity to be held accountable for doing those actions, which requires a reasonable amount of intellect that we say is considered aql, to be able to reason, discern, to understand, to absorb, to comprehend all of the above. So that is the second condition that the Shaykh he mentioned for the prerequisite of ablution, al-wudu, that is al-aql, to have the sanctity, the intellect. So the first one was Islam. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala said, وَلَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا. Nothing will be accepted other than Islam as a deen. So it means you have to accept Islam first in order to have those things accepted from the religion from you. And then the Shaykh mentioned al-aql. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رفع أقلام عن الثلاثة. And this hadith is in all of the books where Sallam mentioned from the hadith of Aisha and the Sunan Imam al-Nasa'i that the pen has been lifted from three, meaning Allah will not in this life, He will not hold that person responsible for these acts of obligation, worship, and so forth, obedience in this life. Rather, they will have an examination on the Day of Judgment, only catered to those people that were in this category of not having the intellect, or those that a messenger was not sent to them, or they did not hear of the messenger. But in this life, they are not held responsible. And from those categories, one of them the Prophet mentioned, al-majnoon hatta ya'qil, the one who does not have his intellect until he gains it. And if he never gains it in this life, Allah tests him or her permanently, then they are not responsible for such acts. So this is the second condition for the prerequisites of ablution, wudu, the intellect. Then the Shaykh mentioned thirdly, at-tamyiz, to be able to say, okay, this is time to be serious, okay, and then play later. Or to be able to understand this is dangerous and this is safe. And a person can have intellect, but because he has not matured, or he is at a stage of coming into young adulthood, then he has not gained all of those lessons and those know-hows yet, but he still has intellect. He can be taught, he can absorb, he can perform like this. And many of the scholars mention, from the scholars of hadith of the past, the child or the young boy that narrates at 5 years old, that his narrations are accepted, but they cannot be worked upon, or worked by, I should say. They cannot be used as an evidence, but they can be listened to, they can be recorded as something that took place, but you could not use them as a verdict because of the rules and regulations for the one who is under the age of, as we say, young adult age. So this point is showing that that one who's narrating, he may not have tamyiz, he may not know this is a time for playing, this is a time for being serious, but that person still, he can be considered and should be considered one who has intellect. So there's a difference between the one who does not have intellect and the one that does not have tamyiz. Tamyiz is just the stage where the person cannot discern. He does not know, as we say, he's wet behind the ears. He has not matured, developed. It takes time and experience, and he must have that. So the third one is tamyiz, is the Sheikh mentioned, tamyiz, and that is to yumayyiz bayna hada wa hada, to be able to decide or distinguish between it's time to play now and salat is later, or it's time to make salat now and play is later, or to pray, make the salat, and not to go in your pocket and check for your toy, or to and you pull out a piece of candy and eat. This is someone who can't distinguish between it's not time for this, rather it's time for that. And this also, many of the scholars, not to veer too far off, when they talk about the statement of Prophet ﷺ, لا تسافر مرأة لا تسافر مرأة إلا مع ذي المحرم أو كما قال. Prophet, he said that a lady is not supposed to travel except with her she possesses a mahram. Mahram here means someone that's a chaperone, or someone that she cannot marry because they are already related to her. They are already related to her by either blood, which they say paternal, or maternal through marriage. And so, of course, the son is involved or considered in this category. And many of the scholars, they're saying that this is not enough, that the lady has a son with her. لا يكفي أنه ابنها. It's not enough that it's her son. They said لكن عليه أن يكون مميز له أن يكون في بلوغ. He must be at the stage of his life. And we say stage because each person's time varies. Some come at the stage of maturity and distinguishing between what's danger and what's not danger. Some of them, they gain the ability to know when it's something they should defend and when it's something they should not. At certain ages, you may find a boy at 7, he's reached that. Another boy, he's 9, he hasn't reached that. You may find a boy at 11, he's almost there. You may find another boy, he's not there until 15. So this tamyiz, many of the women think that, well, I have my son, so I'm going to travel. I have a mahram. No, it's not just that he's your son, but he must have tamyiz. He must be able to distinguish, because the point of having someone to travel is that he will protect the woman. He will help her if something happens to where someone's trying to take advantage of the lady or to overpower the lady. And this is not a slight, by the way, towards the woman, nor to the gender of the opposite sex, but this is from the knowledge of Al-Alimul Hakim. Al-Alimul Hakim, the one who's Alim. And Al-Alim is one of the names of Allah. And this name denotes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ilmul tam wa ilmul muhit bi kulli shay, that Allah has knowledge of everything, and He knows completely what someone needs, what someone doesn't, what will happen, what will not happen, what's a possibility, what's not a possibility. And Al-Hakimu, this is some deep insight that Allah would place this in the lives of the people. This is not from something on the surface. Sometimes we don't understand, but Allah, He fully understands. So this is not a slight, rather this is a fadlun wa rahmatun min Allahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. This is a gift, a mercy, ni'matun kibira, a prize that has so many fringe benefits in it, so many advantages, something that is a fadlun min Allah, a blessing, a gift from Allah, wa min rahmatihi tabaraka wa ta'ala, and from His mercy. So this is the third condition of wudhu, a tamyiz, to be able to discern between what's right and wrong, to discern between what's a danger, not a danger, to be able to distinguish between the things that are serious and the things that are not so serious, to distinguish between the different acts of worship and to execute them. The Sheikh, he mentioned, Sheikh bin Baz, the fourth condition for ablution, al-wudu, is an-niyyah, an-niyyah, an-niyyah. And we have mentioned before many times, over and over and over, that an-niyyah laysa nutaqu ala lisani min shay'in. It is not that you say anything upon the tongue, the issue of niyyah or intention, but rather intention, as Imam al-Mujaddid al-Mujahid, Imam Abi Zakaria Yahya bin Sharaf, known as Imam al-Nawawi, he mentioned mahalaha al-qalb. The point and the reference when you talk about intention is a person's heart, not his tongue. And likewise, his great student, Huwa Ahmed ibn Abdul Halim, known as Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned the same thing. وكذلك جملة من العلماء في عصرنا كذلك الإمام العلامة Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin. And we mentioned those that are commonly known for their writings in making these points. Not that others have not mentioned them from other places, but that these are commonly known scholars that wrote and explained the simple works that include these topics. So it is clear that the place for intention is the heart. So that means a person must decide in his chest and his heart. He must, and some would say in his mind, but we know that the central organ for all of the actions is the heart, as opposed to that which science had mentioned in the past, that is the brain. And many times a person's brain has stopped working, but what's still keeping him alive? His heart. They say he's brain dead, but he's not considered dead as long as his heart is beating. So this shows that the heart is the Ras al-Amr. It is the head of the issue, as the Prophet he mentioned, Allah wal-qalb, is it not the heart? So here niyyah is that a person decides he's going to make wudu. He's going to determine, okay, let me get up. The fact that he's getting up and he has this in his heart, and it is sent the signals, the neutrons, as the heart has its own set of neutrons, as the scholars have mentioned, and sitting with experts, the doctors of these fields, they have collaborated and come up with it. There are neutrons in the heart that send signals to the brain and not the opposite. So the person decides from the heart, this is the niyyah, he's going to make wudu, not for freshening up, but he needs to make it to pray, or that he's going to make it just so he can stay in a state because he likes to be in a state of tahara. So in this case, there must be a clear aim, as the person who is going to make wudu must have an intention to make the salat. And this is one of the conditions the Shaykh he mentioned, the fourth one, the niyyah. So number one, the Shaykh he mentioned Islam. Number two, he mentioned al-aql, intellect, intelligence. Number three, at-tamyiz, to discern, to distinguish between the different affairs and the different acts of worship and so forth. And number four is an-niyyah, to have a decision that you make, to have a goal in mind for washing, and not that you're just washing, but even if you were to wash the face and the arms, it must be decided already in your heart, in your intellect, in your mind, this is wudu. I'm not just washing. This is an act of worship. Now, number five, the Shaykh he mentioned, بأن لا ينوي قطاعا حتى تتم طهارته. Now, and that a person should not decide that he's going to break away, يعني أصحاب الحكمه. He should bring all of the issue of wudu together, not wash part of the body and then say, wait a minute, I have to run and cut the teapot off on the stove. He runs, he cuts the teapot off, then he comes back and picks up where he left off. No, he must start all over again because he broke in between washing to do something. He must do a complete washing until he completes the whole of wudu. That's the 5th condition. And then number 6, the Shaykh, he said, قَطِيعُ مَوْجِبُ الْوُضُوء, that he leaves off the obligations of wudu. The obligations, if there are some things you have to do without those parts being washed, you have no wudu. Then others acts or recommended, such as how many times did you wash. It's required to wash the face, as Allah said, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, wash your faces. Wash your faces. Wash your faces. Wash your faces. So here Allah is clearly saying that washing, ablution, is a part of the process for salah, and part of that process is to wash your face. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم. Or you believe when you want to pray. And it appears from the verse in Arabic, it appears that it is a past tense verb, as if Allah is saying, when you have prayed, then wash your face. إذا قمتم, you have already stood to pray. But here the meaning is إذا أراد أن تصلي, if you want to pray, if you intend on making salah, then do the following things, and that from amongst it is to wash the face. So this is an example of an obligation in the act of ablution. However, that which is not an obligation is to wash multiple times. So as long as the person washes once, he's fulfilled the obligation. And this is what the Shaykh is saying, not to cut out the obligations. Do the obligations. That's number 6. Number 7, the Shaykh mentioned istinja'u aw istijmar al-qubul. Istinja'u aw istijmar al-qubul, to clean the private parts. To clean the private parts. And this doesn't mean every time you make wudu, according to some scholars, that you must make istinja. Some of them take the face value of some hadith of the Prophet to mean that, such as the Hanafiya, the Ahnaf, the Hanafiya. They take it that this is a condition that you must do, regardless if you use the bathroom or not, to clean that part, because if you have some najasa, impurities, your salah is not accepted. But here some scholars take the opinion, whenever you use the bathroom, if you use the bathroom, you cannot just get up, وَالْعَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, and say, well, I'm going to make wudu and then pray. I don't need to clean myself because I'm going to clean myself with wudu. No, you must do a cleaning of the private parts, and then the body that is inclusive in the act of wudu, you wash that as well. So this could be understood for the sake of precautionary measures. A person checks, make sure that they clean, especially if people go to sleep. Sometimes you have secretions and different things that come out of the body. The body is made to secrete when resting. So a person may want to make istinja or istijmar, as the Shaykh is mentioning here, as a condition. Again, not every person of knowledge sees that to be the case upon every act of ablution. Some of them mention it as it relates to sleeping, others related to if a person has some type of doubt about his state of affairs, that he cleans that way and then make a wudu. And others mention barakallahu fikum, after using the bathroom, and according to the different understandings of how this should be applied, then this is the reason they have the different takes and different statements and opinions concerning this. So the Shaykh brought that as a prerequisite of the wudu to clean the body parts, the private parts. Yani istijmar means to clean with something dry. Sometimes it also means to clean with water. Sometimes the word istijmar, it includes water or something that is dry. And then istinja'u means to clean with water, and sometimes it means to clean with something that's not water. They're interchangeable when you read the books of fiqh, where primarily we learn istinja'u is water, and istijmar is cleaning without water. But they could carry the same meaning, and the Shaykh is mentioning them both here to show the totality of cleaning the private parts as a condition. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, and Allah knows best. The Shaykh also mentioned the tiratul ma'uhu wa ina'uhu, and to make sure that the vessel in which he gets the water from is pure. Make sure there's no urine or something of impurities in the vessel, because remember, they used to use vessels in the desert. Used to have the water poured in a container to use. The days of, as they say, having the water hose to spray is later, and it's from what we understand and have now in the age of advancement in technology. But back then they used to take the water from a bigger source and to pour it into containers. So one of them, if a person is going to use a container, make sure that the container is free from anything that would contaminate the water. Make sure that the water as well as the container is clean, free from any impurities. Number 8. Also, the Shaykh mentioned, Barakallahu fikum, ماذا إزالة ما يمنع الوصول البشر. إزالة ما يمنع وصول البشر. That a person removes anything that will prevent the water from touching the surface of the person's body. And this is a common issue when we talk about fingernail polish. The women, they get upset. هداهم الله ورزقهن علم النافع. We ask Allah to direct them to what's right and to give them beneficial knowledge. Give them guidance in this area, and to give them patience upon that knowledge. But it's difficult for them because they like the pretty colors and they spent so much time getting it done, which is another issue in itself. But the point is that it is proven that the nail polish has chemicals and things, and the makeup of the polish that serves as a barrier between the nail, the fingernail or the toenail, and the water. It will not lay on the nail if a person has the polish. The water will lay on top. And one of the conditions of the wudu is that water must touch the actual skin, the body surface, including the fingernail. So this is the condition, the 9th condition that the Shaykh mentioned, the removing that which will prevent any water from touching the body. Any water from touching the body, it must be removed. This also includes when a person is going to make wudu. Barakallahu fikum. If you're talking about something, some type of substance on the head, different hair gels and stuff to use for the finger waves, that stuff has to be washed out in order for the water to touch the scalp when you make wudu and so forth like this, to penetrate the hair. So this is an important issue when you talk about um, the body, except in cases of darura, which that means you have no other choice. A person breaks a leg, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ أَعْذَمَ اللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. I seek Allah's protection that I don't break any bones, that you don't break any bones. It's a painful thing. But something of this magnitude, you have an excuse to wipe over the cast on the leg, to wipe over the cast on the foot, to wipe over the cast on the arm, because it's unprevented thing. We're talking about things that can be removed, that is not a harm in removing, such as the nail polish, that which is put for decoration or beautification. Then those are the things we're talking about, and not the things such as a cast on a person's arm or leg and so forth. Then the 10th and final thing the Shaykh mentioned from the conditions of wudu, يعني دخول الوقت يعني دخول الوقت, the time has entered. And that means every time a person wants to pray that salah, the time has to be in order for him to make wudu. And that's for the person that doesn't maintain his wudu. If a person maintains his wudu, as we know, it's recorded the Prophet made salah on one wudu, meaning he made wudu and didn't break it, didn't go to the bathroom, didn't break wind, didn't do anything that made him renew his wudu all day. So this is possible. What we mean, the person, for each time the salah comes in, he's not in the state of wudu. Then for that person, the time must be in. Meaning that when the time is in, if that person doesn't have wudu, the entering of that time necessitates him to make wudu. The entering of that time necessitates her to have to make wudu. The fact that the time is in for prayer. And that's for the one who does not have ablution. She did not maintain her ablution. Then the time of dhuhr necessitates for him to make wudu, because he doesn't have wudu. So the actual adhan, the actual sun being as high as zenith for him, is a condition. Now he has to make wudu, because he didn't have wudu prior to the time of that salah. And the Shaykh, he mentioned for the one who is always breaking his wudu, the one who is always breaking his wudu, then for him the time becomes a condition. That means that when the time of salah comes in, then he must make his wudu, because he doesn't have a wudu that he maintains. So the time entering for each salah becomes a issue for him. As for the one who maintains his wudu, then the entering of time is an issue for him as well, but it's not a necessity for him to make wudu, because he already has his wudu. The old wudu suffices. So he's met the condition for the salah. He's met the condition that the time has come in, because he maintained wudu while that time was entering. But for the one who did not have wudu, or he had wudu but he broke it prior to the time, which is called dukhul al-waqt, then that time is a condition for him. He must make the wudu because of that time. He must have that time enter and be in wudu. He must make the wudu upon the time for salah, if he's a person who did not maintain his or her wudu. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا والحمد لله رب العالمين. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us, and we ask Allah to shower His mercy upon the Imam, the Allama, the Muhaddith, the great scholar, the Alim of Hadith, Imam Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz, known as Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, and to bless all of the Muslims to benefit, as the name of the book is, the Rusul Muhammad Amatul Ummah, most important lessons, meaning some of the most important lessons for the everyday for all of the Muslims, for the masses of the Muslims. Some of the questions that have been asked around the issue of Wudhu, one of them, we'll mention a few of them, inshallah wa ta'ala. Is it permissible to wipe over the headgear, the kimar, or the amama, or as they say, the wutra, for the man, the thing that he puts on his head, similar to the lady's head covering? Then we say yes, it is permissible as long as a person has made wudu and he has placed that on his or her head in a state of purification. If he or she breaks their wudu, they don't have to remove it to wipe the head, they just wipe over it. Question number 2, is it permissible to wipe over the socks? And did they have socks in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? There are some narrations that they had some foot coverings. We know them to be called khufs, that which is like a leather moccasin. And there are some reports that they had other things that they put on their feet that we will say is similar to a sock. And the scholars, they mention, as long as those foot coverings are entered similarly to the entering of the headgear in a state of purity, you'll make a complete wudu without leaving off any of the steps with water that's suitable
Device
for
unlocked.
Ablution. And then you
8:55 a.m.
Put
Class
something.
line. Uberk Inference reminder.
You put something
Screen
on
off.
your
Ringer vibrate.
head or your foot. Then in that case, if the person has to make wudu again because of going to the bathroom, sleeping, or breaking wind, then he simply washes the face, those external parts that show, and he can wipe over the top of the foot covering. He can wipe over the top of the foot covering as long as it comes above the covers the ankle. It must cover the ankle. Then he wipes over the top of the foot covering, be it a khuf, a leather moccasin, a sock, so long as it's not transparent, that particular material or footwear, he wipes over the top of it. And this is what we have from our noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the hadith of Mughir ibn Shu'bah and the Bukhari and Muslim, when he was with the Prophet on a journey and he went to make wudu and he wanted to remove his footwear, and the Prophet told him, Da'ahuma, leave them, because indeed, and the Prophet illustrated as he wiped over his, I entered my foot gear in a state of purity. So as long as you enter it in a state of purity, when you break it, you can wipe over it. For the one who's without traveling, he's home in his locale, city, town, or whatever village, he has 24 hours to wipe. If he wipes at 12 a.m., he can wipe until 12 a.m. the next day. If he wipes at 6 a.m., he can wipe until 6 a.m. the next day. So as long as he does not remove those foot gear, he does not remove the right and the left moccasin or the right and the left sock, he can wipe over them for 24 hours. If he's a person who was traveling, then he has 3 days and 3 nights to wipe, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned. And lastly, is it required to wash more than once when making wudu? We covered this point in the class. That is an obligation to wash each part that Allah mentions for you to wash at least once, because washing it simply is to wash it once. But to do 2 or 3 times is recommended by the Prophet. This would be considered sunnah. It would be considered recommended to wash twice, to wash 3 times. And this the Prophet ﷺ taught us in order to assure that the person gets all of the spots when he or she makes ablution. As the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the Sahih of Imam Bukhari Muslim, and it's also in the Rida Salihin of Imam Nawawi and other collections, Wailil Aqab min al-Nar, the one who misses the spot on his heel or his ankle, as Kaab has the meaning of both the ankle and the heel, then he will be punished in the fire. So therefore the Prophet used to wash twice, 3 times, to show the believers to make sure that you cover and that you wash all of the parts and make an ablution. We ask Allah wa ta'ala to give us hidayah, increase us in guidance. We ask Allah to give us beneficial knowledge that we can comprehend and practice. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise ignorance from amongst us, to make us from those who have the knowledge of the religion, to save us from being from amongst the ignorant, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blamed us and made that a sin to be ignorant. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy and His forgiveness. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala rasulih al-kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa hu astaghfiruhu wa atubu ilayh. You think I said up good? All of the praise belongs to Allah, the Mighty, the Sublime, and any mistakes from myself or in the shaitan, and Allah is free from that. Until the next time, may Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Device unlocked. 9 a.m.